So, what even is product design?
Well, Sean, we're going to find out today.
Designers discuss.
So product design as we know it today really centers around finding solutions and designing apps and tools that people use online or on their phones. For me personally, I come from a startup background.
Yeah, I mean, me too. The first job I had out of college was a startup company, and I was doing product design, apparently. I didn't know that at the time, and I was also doing like brand design, but I don't know if I knew that term.
Yeah, my first job was what I thought was website design because it was very much like Facebook, and so it was a website, so they just explained it to me as that. Product design wasn't even a term, I think, back then. It was still user experience design, and I think over time, as I got more exposed to like the industry, that term kind of evolved.
Yeah, totally. And I thought what I was doing was like website design as well.
Yes.
But ultimately it evolved into like a really big product.
Yeah, and I started, my background from college was in industrial design, which is physical product design. And we were kind of the same. Like, I feel like product design as we know it today was more so referred to as user experience. At least that's how I knew of it as. But once I started doing it, I realized that it was more than just user experience. You're thinking about the UI of it as well, and so many other things.
And I come from advertising background, so where there is a huge demand for product designers because clients are starting to see the need to involve designers early in the process. So we see that, especially in Kansas City, there is a huge demand for product design because we have a lot of people from the advertising industry that are moving into product design.
A lot of people that are doing product design come from different backgrounds because it's an up and coming thing. There's not a ton of college degrees, at least when we were in college, that were teaching that. Most of us are self-taught with our, using our education that we had or whatever, but then teaching ourselves about product design along the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I went to art school for print design, but a lot of what I learned was on the job. With
same.
clients, just figuring out as I went.
Mine was even like maybe more nebulous. It was city planning and design. So that was like the degree I have. Wow, that's weird. I've never used it. Is the thing. But I am just sort of a creative person, I guess, at heart. And there was certainly design at school, even though it was all hand-drawn. It was crazy how much was just hand-drawn. So I learned everything in the 6 years that I was at my very first job. And so I was fortunate to get that job, having no experience doing that. But I also had, a lot of opportunity to learn.
So the difference between a website or a product is really around how the end user is using it or interacting with it. A product tends to be something that the user uses, and a website's something they consume. So I think a product like a tool, I want to share this picture with my friends. I want to listen to the song, as opposed to like a website where I want to find out when this restaurant opens up.
So what would you guys say are some of the benefits of being a product designer?
I would say one of the biggest benefits is that you get to work with emerging tech, which makes the field very interesting because you are always trying new tools and having new challenges to work with. And in design especially, there is always a new design trends. So it's never boring. That's what I love the most about this field.
Yeah, at Crema specifically, getting to solve problems is really exciting because we work with clients in all sorts of different industries, doing different things. And we get to, as designers, we get to kind of walk into those new challenges or problems with a clean slate and then learn a lot about these companies and what they're doing in these industries. So we kind of get to become like mini experts in all of these different fields, which is exciting.
Yeah, and they're like changes like almost, it could be monthly or you could have these longer contracts. So you get to know a lot of these products pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that keeps things fresh. And also like being here among a team that does a bunch of other stuff. So this kind of goes back to like not not working alone as a designer, you know, working among a team, you kind of get to see like what other people are doing. You can kind of like learn from those people around you. Like I know here at Crema, we have a couple people who kind of started in the design world and ended up as developers. So there's always that path. And even so, as a product designer, you can specialize or generalize however you kind of want it. I know I lean more toward like the aesthetic and art side, so I do get some projects where I get to do illustrations or animations or logos and brands. So that's just like a side piece of what we do here, but I think there's room to do that when you're among a larger team like this that just has a great design staff.
Yeah, and as a product designer, and specifically the way that we do product design at Crema, it's not just the UI and the UX, it's the interactions and animations and all sorts of things. We are the only designers at Crema, so any type of design thing that comes through, we get to do it.
And one other really just kind of benefit of getting into product design now is that there's just a lot of demand everywhere. There's a lot of companies that are trying to build their own in-house team, a lot of people looking to improve their own product design. So there's a lot of job security. You can really get out there, kind of teach yourself, or even take some online courses or go to school right now and kind of build up that skill and go out and find a job very quickly.
Yeah, and frankly, you can demand a higher salary for product work. I think when I really generally call myself just a designer to just the average person. So I don't say that, but generally, like when you say designer, I think a lot of people think graphic design, or that's sort of what I think. But yeah, that's sort of a commoditized role, especially these days. You can like buy assets and things online like that. So in my experience, product design, you definitely get paid more.
Yeah, especially in the industries we're working in, it's almost 100% with tech, and there's just a lot of, you know, with Silicon Valley and with investors, there's just a lot of money flowing into the industry. And we are a commodity that's in demand.
Yeah, there's not a ton of us.
Nope. For those designers who might be coming from a more traditional background of design, whether that's advertising or print or identity, there are a couple things that you need to take into account when you're doing product design. For one, it's not static. I think when I transitioned from print design into product design, it took me a little bit of time to understand what responsive was. But your design might look different on a desktop or on a phone. I've designed this interactions that were the size of this wall, that were like 50 feet wide. So just kind of understanding how, not only how it's going to be displayed, but how the user's going to interact with it is something that you really need to understand. And kind of tagging onto that, all these experiences will need to get built somehow. So you don't need to know how to code, but having an understanding of how these things are going to be built is very useful when you're designing, just because it makes it easier for the developer in the end. You are building something that can be built as opposed to just something that looks really cool.
Yeah, and there are still a ton of similarities. You still have to think about typography and color and the grid. Pretty much any type of design principle is still going to apply to product design. Gestalt principles and things like that are still very applicable, and things that we think about on a daily basis.
If you're considering starting product design, I think our advice would be to start with a Sketch, because it's a really cheap tool compared to Adobe. So it's like $100
for a year.
So I think that tool covers it all. And from there, the next tool will be Envision, and it's about $15 a month. So those two will allow you to design a prototype.
Yeah, Sketch also has like a free trial for maybe 2 weeks. And what's also helpful is that because it's such a popular tool, you can just find so many resources on it. YouTube videos, things like that. Plugins,
Mockups, all that stuff.
Pre-built mockups.
Yeah, and Envision, if you're just starting out and you just have 1 or 2 prototypes, it's actually free. It's once you start doing a bunch of them that they start charging you. But even if Sketch is a little too pricey for you, there's things like Figma, there's things like Envision Studio, which are very similar tools. They might not be as robust or as mature as Sketch is, but they're usually free.
Yeah, and Adobe XD, if you're already in the Adobe Creative Cloud, then Adobe XD is free, which is really similar to Sketch. It's basically a duplicate of Sketch, but We prefer Sketch and Envision.
Yeah.
Those are our favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something
Absolutely.
I've been doing a little bit more recently is using an iPad to sort of sketch out some things. I do it a lot just for art, but I think it's really helpful for a client to see kind of colors and like more context than just like a quick sketch on a whiteboard or a piece of paper. I guess that could get a little dangerous if you're kind of planting in their mind the idea that like this is what it'll look like fully baked. These are the colors. But I think sometimes that is really helpful to show a little bit more of what the context of an actual app would look like, especially like on a digital interface. I think some people like that.
Yeah.
But it's also a super quick tool. You don't have to, like physically erase anything. You don't have to waste paper. So I've been finding some uses for that.
So if you want to get started in product design, a really good place to start is just looking at what other apps are doing. Download some apps, go to some websites and find inspiration, and then duplicate them. I mean, go through and figure out like, what do you like about this app? Why is it working well? And then go and do the same thing, and you'll learn a lot in that process. You don't have to feel weird about copying things. You're not going to use it for anything. It's just a way to teach yourself more about product design and kind of learn how it works and what good design is.
Yeah, that's how I actually learned all of the tools that I know now, and how I taught myself design, because I actually just sat on Behance and recreated what I saw and tried to just recreate it from scratch.
Yeah.
So I could figure out how they did that
Yeah.
in the tool. But something that I think is really good following that is to build a portfolio. So you need to be able to show not that you can design good looking things, but that you can solve a problem. So showing that thought process, going out and just kind of find a problem that you want to solve, so maybe something that's bothered you for a while, try to find a solution for it, track that solution as you're building it, and document that all and put it into a portfolio piece, and that'll show not only your visual design skills but your product thinking skills as well.
That's actually what I did when I was transitioning from web design to product design. I remember I didn't have any portfolio piece like of a product. So what I did is that I remember that was in 2014. I used to use Skype a lot with my family. And that was one of the portfolio pieces that I redesigned that I actually got a lot of feedback from interviews.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually a great place to start.
Yeah, I did the same thing. That's how I got this job, actually. I redesigned the Spotify app.
In addition to like, studying things that you like and apps that you like to use and sort of recreating them, there are just like a number of libraries out there. You can just go in and see like what's like Google doing, one of the most massive companies on the planet, maybe the most. Look at their whole slew of assets and material design assets, and just kind of see what some of the biggest people are doing out in that space. And I think that'd be really helpful to influence you, and then you can sort of modify that, put your own take on it.
All of that stuff I think is really good as a way to build your skills. One thing I tell a lot of new designers, and one thing, again, the reason I got the job here, I think, find a mentor. So find someone who you either admire in the space or is active in your community.
Yeah.
They could be where you live or across the world. Just reach out online, find out where they are, and just start talking to them. A lot of times they're going to be open to any questions you might have. Those people can really help you not only build up your portfolio and your skills, but help you navigate that career as you try to get that off the ground. So I know a lot of designers who are thinking about coming to product design are really apprehensive because they think they need to learn code, or they think they need to be a developer before they can start working on product design. What do you think about that, Sean?
So I would say I'm indifferent about it. Like, I really think it's a valuable skill, and I think you'd be highly desired too. Like as an employee, that's great. I do know enough developers though to be like, wow, I don't have the time to do that, or necessarily the drive. I could probably find the time if I really cared. So I think it's valuable. Do you need it? No. I just love the visual side, and there's enough problem solving, I think, from that side that I don't necessarily have to discover what all those other problems are you're solving with code. So that's my take.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you need to know code, but I think it helps me be a better designer. I think as I'm designing out an interface, I'm actually thinking about how they're going to build this.
You're right.
I'm making sure that I'm not doing something completely crazy or off the wall that it's going to take 3 months to develop when we only have like 2 weeks to do it. I feel like I'm a little more free to come up with ways to actually solve the data problem too, visually and kind of abstractly. And knowing you'll probably use this tool or we're in this framework, just kind of lets me know kind of what's available for me to suggest us do visually.
Yeah, I think I get a bit of that to a degree just by working alongside developers. I guess I've seen or talked with them enough to kind of understand how some of this works, which is just helpful, like baseline knowledge. I certainly don't know to the extent that you know, but having gone over to a developer's desk and seen what they're working on, and they're like totally open to talk about like how things work, and so that's always been really helpful for me.
You'll learn along the way.
I think you said it best. I think if you're driven to learn it and if you find it interesting, learn it. It's only going to help you, but don't feel like you have to know code.
Yeah.
So we hope that this video has kind of explained what product design is and kind of demystified some of the misconceptions around it and shown you how to get more involved in it. I think some of the next steps, and we're going to list a bunch of applications and resources in the description below, but just start exploring, find what what makes you passionate, and just kind of chase that down.
Yeah.
Give
us a thumbs up if you liked the video, and let us know in the comments below what you would like to see from us in the future. Bye.